Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed, and we are reading the new translation of Plato's Meno. Now, that's worth pointing out because the translations we've had of Plato's Meno have been rubbish up until today. And if you are following along with the channel and the podcast, and you are catching every second episode where we learn about the pathologos and the significance of freeing ourselves from our false beliefs that cause us to project and not see reality as it is, and block us from seeing and sharing in the logos. I was going to say participating in the logos, but it's not participation because we don't take a part, but we share in it. If you are familiar with those things, you will know why the translations in the past have been garbage, and you'll appreciate the significance of a translator who has translated the Meno from the ancient Greek, who has himself been studying the Logos and who has himself been doing midwifery. You got to get the book. There's a free link below. Free link below to a PDF of this translation, and this translation is fantastic. I haven't published any books myself. I've written a few dialogues, but the world has yet to see them. I do this instead. And I play music, and hopefully I am able to share as much of the Logos as I can through my music. And if you are interested in joining my music stream on Twitch, it's called Jed Phoenix Music. So you can catch my music streams there. So the significance of this translation, which you can get for free below, is that number one, we have the Greek. Number two, the author has been studying the nature of philosophy in the Logos for many years, and so he recognizes the key terms and he puts them in a different color. But also the translations of those key terms are different from what we've got in the past. And the difference is they are accurate. They're actually the words that are written in the Greek. And having the Greek below means we don't just have to believe. We can check it out for ourselves, especially if a section or passage or even the book hangs on a single word. If that's the case, and sometimes it does, it's worth looking at that word for ourselves and really nailing down the meaning in the original Greek. And we can do that because we have the internet and we have access to the Greek lexicon. So, hooray for us. Clap. There we go. So we're reading that good translation, and we are in the Meno, of course. The Meno started with this guy named Meno saying, asking Socrates, can virtue be taught? Interesting way to start, because it assumes he knows what virtue is. We would call it excellence, perhaps. What's the ideal or the excellence of the soul that we should be aiming for as conscious human beings? Oh, and welcome to the chat, by the way. What is that? And can it, well, he didn't ask what is it. He asked, could it be taught? Now, Socrates turned around and says, hey, what be taught? Oh, virtue, virtue. I don't. Do you? And Meno's like, well, hold the phone for a second. They didn't have phones back then. Hold the carrier pigeon for a second. Are you telling me that the great Socrates doesn't know what virtue is? Socrates, yeah, I don't know what it is. And you know what? I've never met anyone who does, which is a puzzle for us. If anyone knows what excellence of the soul is, it's Socrates. Why is he saying he doesn't know? It's a question we've had since the beginning. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's a puzzle about the nature of knowledge itself. Maybe virtue is beyond knowledge. Maybe virtue isn't knowledge? We have all these sorts of questions. And he's been dropping us clues about that as we read. And a few episodes back, we got into a lovely, juicy set of clues where he talks about the aspects of pure being and how the individual virtues like justice and courage exist in being as aspects of being, meaning well, if being is the object of knowledge, then they are knowable. So why is Socrates saying that he doesn't know virtue? Hang on a second, these are only the parts of virtue. This is where Socrates pulled Meno up. We'll get to that in a minute. So, Socrates says, can what be taught? And Meno says virtue. And Socrates says, what? Because I don't know what that is. And you don't know what that is. He didn't say that, but it's implied by saying I've never met someone who knows what virtue is. Can you give me a definition? Of course he couldn't. Points to things that he likes, which is what people do nowadays. If you're a politician, if you're a podcaster, if you're a teacher, even if you're a philosophy teacher, or even if you're a psychology professional, without the understanding of the logos that we are learning here, all you can do is point to physical things that you like or don't like, which is just a reflection of the beliefs that you had from your upbringing. And if you're aware of the pathologos, you know how stupid that is. Because the pathologos is a fundamental false belief that clouds your perception and your idea of what's good, beautiful, true, and worth seeking. Fundamentally, because it's the cause of all of your problems, because all of those things are fundamentally wrong in the pathologos. That's why it's called the pathologos. That's why it's the cause of our problems. So, if that's motivating your actions or your opinion about what virtue is, you're in trouble, my friend. So, Meno points to the shiny shapes and colors he likes, gives us the regular spiel about harming your enemies is somehow good, as though that helps them or helps humanity or helps anyone learn anything. Of course it doesn't, it's stupid, it's ignorance. And being good to your friends. Does he know what it means to be good to your friends? That's a big question. If he thinks virtue is this violence and oppression kind of thing, then being good to your friends, is it teaching him how to be virtuous? Isn't that what good is? To benefit your friends? And doesn't benefit bring you into excellence or virtue? Uh-oh. Do you want to be friends with Meno if his idea of virtue is harming your enemies and being good to your friends? Do you want that kind of goodness? I don't. So, Socrates pulls him up and says, that's not a definition, my friend. Try again. In fact, let me teach you how to give a definition. Let me give you a few examples. And what does Socrates use to give examples of how to define something? He uses the dialectic. Hooray. The dialectic. A couple of times, gave a few different examples. Meno is still struggling to give a definition. And by the way, if you can't define something, can you say you've understood it? Have you been able to unify its parts into a singular whole and then pop a name on the top? If you can't, can you say you have understanding? So, the dialectic. Finally, Meno gets a bit pissed off and starts throwing abuse at Socrates, calling him names, threatening him, calling him a flat-headed stingray. Of course, anyone who's followed the logos with another human being before can recognize this. This is what inevitably comes up when people reach their limit. When people reach the limit to the progress of logos that they've made so far. Or they bump up against their pathologos. Same thing. There has to be something to block our willingness to share, not participate, share in the logos. and learn things and become better. Gain insights. Why would we want to stop doing that? Why would we want to say things like shut up or F you or I don't like this conversation because it makes me feel less confident in my ignorance? Why would we ever say that? That seems very against our own interests. Well, we hear it a lot at school and at church and in the politics, and why politicians don't answer any questions, and why all of the reporters are handpicked, and why all of the reporters on the major networks are not reporters but are toadies and mouthpieces for the pathologos of the people with all the money. We see it everywhere. Specifically the shutting down of the dialectic, of dialogue even, and the logos. Part of our capitalist system is to keep people so busy that they don't have time to ask questions or learn how to ask questions. Thankfully, we have this podcast, and we have Meno, and we have Socrates, so we can learn how to do it. All right. Good for us.
Wow.
Oh, and by the way, Socrates drops us a little bit of a clue for what virtue might be and what knowledge might be when he says, oh, Meno, not only have you not learned how to understand anything in your education with the great Gorgias, the great philosopher Gorgias, right, very representative of the professors of philosophy on our time. That's not a dig, it's just the truth. So I once got somebody on this channel saying, don't, I don't know, insult or say bad things about teachers of philosophy, because I am one. And I would say the same thing to that person as I say to anyone here. In this channel, we can't lie to save your false beliefs and images of yourself. Specifically because those false beliefs and images are the very things we're learning how to uncover, because they're unsuspected, reflect on, understand, and remove if they're false. And the freedom we get when we are free from the chains of our loyalty to ignorance and false beliefs, we use that freedom to develop understanding, but we can only do that if we are seeking truth with excellence or virtue, going for the highest. So if I am being said, hey, if someone said, oh, but I worked very hard to be a teacher of philosophy, I can't not tell the truth about what you're doing. Now, if you are the sort of person to say, don't tell the truth, I don't know why you would be here. If you're the sort of person to say, oh, well, I'm doing that. I never knew I was doing that. I spent a lot of money on my school. All my parents and my family told me how great I was, that I even got tenure. But the whole time I've been doing the opposite of philosophy. I better change my mind.
Wow. I don't want to eat a monkey. I don't want to eat a monkey.
Like Joe Rogan always says,
eat a monkey.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
I want to do something better. Of course, that's where we are in our history. We've only had this translation for about a decade, so it's not surprising that the people who call themselves philosophers aren't doing philosophy, because where would they have learned it? Unless they happen to be a master of ancient Greek, which is a tall order. Of course, we have to thank the people who have been learning ancient Greek, along with our translator here, for the fantastic text that we have that is actually Socrates' words that has been unable to be read for a long time. Nevertheless, this Gorgias fellow that was Meno's teacher represents the people who pass themselves off as philosophy teachers today. Unless, of course, you've learnt the dialectic at your school. In which case, please send me a message. I'd love to hear about this. Because that's what we want to do. We want to learn about the significance of the dialectic and learn it, master it, and use it to remove our problems, seek our excellence, and gain a mastery of doing that so that we can use it to benefit. And have fun. Because the more we're doing this while we play, the more fun it is. It's lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun. because it's truth, and you don't have to like mind your manners. I didn't mean to say that your particular beliefs are wrong. No. Your Zorbo god that you got. No, that's the right one. I just mean all other beliefs that prevent understanding are bad because they're beliefs and they're not about truth. Truth requires understanding, and any belief that tells you can't understand or reality isn't understandable, like all religions, because all religions must say that because the word religion means bound by belief. So by definition, again, if you don't know how to do definitions, if you don't know the dialectic, this might be a bit over your head, but think about it, write it down, wonder about it. The word religion comes from the word religios, which means to be bound by a saving belief. If you have understanding, do you need belief? Could that be why every religion demonizes the individual's understanding, independent thought, questions, and ability to partake in realities of the divine and maybe even beyond the divine? So, it's more fun if you can just say that. Because isn't it fun to hear? And fun to say? And fun to make clear? And also fun to push the implications? You know that, where's my guitar? Should I bust out my guitar? I shouldn't. I'll save that for the music stream. I was going to play John Lennon's Imagine. One of the verses is, imagine there's no religion. Just sharing the world together. Nothing to kill or die for. I'm sure I got the lyrics mixed up a little bit, but yeah, imagine what would happen if we didn't have people insisting you must sacrifice your own development of understanding, development of self-mastery, development of art. You must abandon all that because you're naughty and bad. Not me. I deserve all the money. But you, for some reason, and if you don't believe me, you go to hell. If we didn't have that objectively harmful and false bollocks, harmful for the individual doing it, harmful for the individual having it done to them, and harmful for our species, imagine the world free of that. Isn't that fun to do? Imagine incorporating the logos and dialectic into other activities we have. How many times have you looked at a big sporting event like the Olympics or the Super Bowl, which I think at the time of recording is next weekend or the weekend after? And you see all the people coming together and happiness and joy and excellence of the physical form. And have you ever wondered, what if we came together like that but for something meaningful? Like creating, like imagining a different kind of a world where it wasn't based on oppression by the worst kinds of people or capitalism. A system that's based on doing the most harm for the most short-term benefit, which is literally baby brain. Like you can't be more baby brain. It's like eating ice cream. I want to eat ice cream every day today. Right, you could eat everyone else's ice cream, but tomorrow you're going to be sick. You could create a system based on exploiting people and manipulating people and abusing people for your own short-term profit, but that's going to destroy your soul. It's going to destroy the planet that you live on. It's going to destroy your community. It's going to destroy the possibility of you meeting any of your community needs. And it's going to eventuate in things like genocide, which we're seeing now, perpetual war, wage slavery. These are going to hurt. It might not hurt you in the short term, but... And of course, the Phaedo talks about the significance of the life we live here in how we relate to and how we function in the next world. Yes, bad for those people, but thumbs up for the people who spend their time doing philosophy and the dialectic. It says, Where's my thumbs up? Says Socrates in the Phaedo. There we go. So, fun to imagine that. Fun to add meaning into activities that we normally do, like sport. Imagine adding the logos. How would you do it? Be fun to imagine, fun to try. So really, this standard of truth and excellence and adding meaning into what we do, or virtue, is fun. And that's the argument against people saying, oh, just lie about this because it'll hurt my feelings. I teach philosophy. Well, doesn't change the fact that we need to look at how philosophy is being taught and whether or not it is doing this or it is teaching the opposite, which is the love of opinions. That's what Socrates calls them. Philodoxia, love of opinions, not philosophy, love of wisdom. Wisdom isn't about opinions. Wisdom is universal and true for everyone and accessible to everyone. The outside, there's a cave analogy where in the Republic where Socrates talks about our spiritual purpose is to move from the cave, which is the physical world, where we only see shadows and we think it's real. We have to leave the cave into the real world, the outside world, which is, of course, the realm of being. Now, the opening of the cave is very wide. What does that mean? Normally caves have a small opening, a very wide opening. What does that mean? Does it mean that wisdom is open to all? Very different from beliefs when it's to do with your identity, your mask, your image, your community. I am a Protestant. I am a Kantian. I am a empiricist. I am an atheist. Well, wisdom is universal, and if the philosophers at college currently, at the time of this recording, 2025, are teaching a series of opinions, Kant's opinions, Hegel's opinions,
that's one for the blooper reel.
Then that's one for the blooper reel.
Wow. He didn't know what solipsism was. He didn't know what deontological moral philosophy was. He didn't know what utilitarianism meant.
That kind of talking. That, of course, is one of the biggest grifters, trying to sound like his lies have legitimacy by using the language of modern philosophy, utilitarianism, and you can say things like Kantism and all this sort of stuff. Cabbage. Unless you love opinions. We're not interested in opinions, we're interested in truth and understanding and that which is universal, and therefore that which can help ourselves and our fellow man. Fun. Hooray. So, our friend Meno has a teacher just like that. Interesting. And Socrates says, hey, this teacher didn't teach you how to understand. He didn't teach you the dialectic. He didn't teach you how to define anything. Not only that, how could you have been let out of school without being initiated into a mystical experience? A non-physical or spiritual experience. Where do you think these things come from? Why do you think we learn about these things? Have you thought about not a virtuous person as an adjective, but if that person can be virtuous and that person can be virtuous, there must be something we are thinking about when we talk about virtue that can apply, but can't itself be in a person. Otherwise, that person will get in the way when it's applied to someone else. For example, if you point to a person and say, that's virtue, okay, I don't know, let's say Lionel Messi has virtue, for example. So, doesn't that horse have the excellence of being a horse, the excellence, the virtue of the horse? Sure. Oh, hang on a second, but Messi is already tied to, so the horse has to also play for Argentina in football for it to have an excellence of a horse? Doesn't work. It has to itself be free of physical qualities for it to be able to be applied to physical things. Otherwise, Messi's stuck on it. So where is that thing? And if you haven't been, if you're education in the dialectic hasn't led to you having this experience of the realm of being where the nouns exist. And Socrates says, well, that's a bad education, my friend. Which opens up another question. A lot of people have not had an experience of being. How come we can still recognize virtue? How come we can still recognize beauty? How come we can still recognize, to varying degrees, justice? If it's not a physical thing, where do we learn it? That's where we are in the text. Because Meno has to learn how to understand. And this is a shot to his ego. Doesn't like finding out he was wrong. Sound like anyone you know? Sound like you sometimes when you have your Meno moments. This is the point. We all are like Meno at times. We are aspiring to be like Socrates, and Socrates says, by the way, my level of functioning, even though it's beyond everyone else in Athens, beyond even Meno, of course, is in the end, I am like a guide for you to take the next step, because there's a level of being beyond where I am. Which is a fantastic thing to say and a thing to point to. Usually people, modern people or modern philosophers or everyday people are the opposite. They want to go out of the way to sort of make the claim that they are the best, they are the alpha, they are the sigma, they are the expert, they are the lecturer, they are the teacher, they are the authority on philosophy, they are the psychotherapist, they are these things. There isn't a level of being beyond them. So, Socrates is a very strange sort of a cat. Meno, of course, kind of annoyed. He likes being the rich, probably likes being the rich boy with all the privilege and having the official education, when maybe the title that comes after studying with Gorgias. Doesn't like finding out he's wrong. So Socrates has taken a little, well, he is now talking about the significance of being okay with being wrong, and talking about the difference in ideas of what is good to be in terms of a state of mind. Meno thinks certainty, being able to give big long speeches and convince people that you're an expert on this or that. Like a lecturer, like a preacher, like a politician, like a businessman, like an economist, like a right-wing grifter, like an alpha podcast. All of the institutions that have the power and money do this thing that Meno does. Certainty. Fighting to never be wrong. Famously, even when it goes to courts and trials and stuff and they have to tell the truth, afterwards they'll say, no, I was never wrong. But under oath, no, that's just the fake news. Or a business will pay out an employee, I'm paying you $1 million for this thing, but under the conditions that I don't have to say I was ever wrong about anything. Oh, that's our whole freaking society. Got the guard up for ever being wrong. Now you can say, well, that's understandable in a way if everyone else isn't doing the logos, isn't doing the dialectic, and is motivated by their sick pathologos, and therefore is looking for an opportunity of someone making a mistake so they can jump on them and abuse them instead of doing what Socrates said. Oh, you've made a mistake. That's fantastic. Let's learn. You're supposed to make mistakes. Nope. The pathologos is just using anything as an excuse to punish, because punishment is the only word that can justify violence. And violence is the goal. Violence is the pathologos. Not physical violence always, but physical or psychological violence, some sort of attack against the worth and the value and the functioning of the self of another person in order to cosplay the guru, pretend to be the knower. That image of knowing that requires the crushing of the self and the development of another person is the addiction of the pathologos that is governing humanity right now, until we wake up to that fact and do something about it. How about have fun learning? How about have fun reading with me and my flamingo? My flamingo had so much fun last time that he brought another friend from the farm. It's a baby chicken. See? We all read philosophy together, and we dance. Nevertheless, we want to do something different, and we want to encourage that in our community and on our Discord and on our Twitch and YouTube, and become a model, let's hope, of people who see making mistakes as important and fun and an opportunity to learn something new, to correct something that was mistaken. And the how and the way we made the mistake and when we made the mistake are all clues to what that insight is. Why were we given this false belief at childhood that is manifesting itself in these ways? Blocking us from the logos like Meno, causing us to attack people like Socrates. Why do we attack the very best people who can help us the most? Like Socrates. Let's stop doing that. It's against our own interests, and it's against justice, and it's against excellence, and therefore it's an objectively bad thing to do. Another thing about philosophy is we get an objective definition, so long as we learn how to give definitions of what's good and bad and right and wrong. Without this realm of being or truth, then the modern people say, well, do anything, who cares? Any rule is just a man-made thing. Therefore, you can't make a rule saying, stop being a Nazi, because you're just forcing your opinion on his opinions, on his life. Isn't he entitled to his opinion? If there's no truth, then it's all opinion. No opinion is better or worse. It's just a matter of who can force theirs. So it's okay to do a genocide. It's okay to let Nazis exist and let them be 800 billionaires and buy governments and put a computer chip in your brain. What are you going to force him to be a Nazi? That makes you a Nazi. That kind of crap is what happens if you don't move past the level of opinions and beliefs. Therefore, the necessity, like we are living in our world, the dialectic of what happens if we don't learn the dialectic. Therefore, there's a necessity to learning the dialectic, learning how to... There's only 4 categories. It's not hard. It takes practice. 4 categories: if the thing exists, if the thing doesn't. To organize our reflection on defining things like virtue, which is the cause of virtuous action. So we're reflecting on the cause. Also, the principles have the existence. So you could say, well, another thing we're doing is we're reflecting on the principle of virtue, not just the cause. The cause would be talking about how it functions in our physical world, to make virtuous people, to be a goal for our development. But the thing itself, the principle itself. Now, principle because it applies universally, because it's universally true, because it's an aspect of being outside of the physical world that is definable with the dialectic, understandable with the dialectic, and experienceable in knowledge, maybe wisdom. That's one of the questions. Is it an object of knowledge? Because the aspects of virtue, like justice and courage, Socrates has already said in the text, are aspects of being and therefore could be objects of knowledge. What about the whole? And in a similar way, so going from knowledge to the whole of knowledge, let's bring it up on the board. In a similar way, where is it? Uh-oh. It's not on the board here. It's okay. for it. So here we have a circle. You can call it being. And inside there are other circles we've gotten already. Whoops. Justice. Courage. These are called the eidos. I always struggle with this thing here. Eidos, E-I-D-O-S. Sometimes called ideas with a capital I, but they're not concepts. Sometimes mistranslated as forms. We don't want this word. That's how we're taught it currently, but it's not. They're aspects of being. In a similar way, we have the realm of becoming. This is our physical world. This is the realm of, okay, let's add some cognitive functions. This is the realm of physical senses. And cognitively, the realm, let's give cognitive a different color. Images. We think in images, opinions, and beliefs. Whereas in the realm of being, it's to do with dianoia, which means understanding with a capital U, because it's not understanding this realm, it's understanding this realm. That's what dianoia means, understanding. It's a Greek word, we don't have an English version, which might be telling. Understanding. But also, knowledge. Or nous. We use the English word knowledge, but the Greek word is nous. Now, if this is the case, then let's finish this. The Greek word is nous, and that means knowledge. Or with a capital K, we used the word knowledge because it's the closest we have so far, until we recognize the significance of these two words and we add them to English. L-E-D-G-E. Now, I didn't put this one in, but you can do that. What would be the equivalent of this in the realm of being? So we're asking the question, and also what would be the equivalent of that? Are there aspects of the physical world that can be beheld? That together, that all function together within the whole of the physical world. What would be the equivalent of eidos in the physical world? That's a question for you. You're welcome.
Wow.
I just gave you a question to play with. Alright, so we have a question ourselves. That is, if these are aspects not only of being but of virtue itself, what does that mean? Does that mean we have to grasp the whole of it? How do we do that? Because we are in midwifery, and as we are seeing with Socrates, he is dealing with the beliefs of Meno and us and 20-25 human beings. He's helping us understand our false beliefs that keep us imprisoned under here. How can he do that? Can he recognize all the different beliefs that can function in the physical world from a greater perspective, from a greater whole, allowing him to look back or look down from outside the cave of ignorance? and function as a dialectician, because that's what he said in the opening. He said, Meno said, what happens if I started being a dick to you? And so, well, you've just given me a dialectic on what shape is, and you used the word color. What if I said, well, I don't know what color means? What would you say to that? Smart guy. Debate bro logic. What if I just use words as weapons, not as a guide to reach apprehension of truth and excellence? If I just use it to fight and win arguments based on dumb opinions and beliefs, like everyone else out there. Socrates said, well, if you did that, I would be more stern with you, and I would say, look, you have to, I've told the truth, I've made my case, I'm using terms that we have agreed on, the definitions of, so you can't go back and lie about that. If you do want to change your mind, it's up to you to make the case of why my thing was wrong. You can't just say, no, I disagree. That's baby brain. He didn't say baby brain, but that's what baby brain is. But if you were a friend, if you were genuinely interested in truth, you weren't just being a debate bro dick. If you were genuinely interested in truth, I would be more gentle with you. I'd be more encouraging. I'd treat you more like a friend, in that I would do everything I can to invite you into sharing in the dialectic with me, sharing in the logos with me. Now notice, Socrates then went on to say, because I don't know what this is. I'm not saying I know and then I'm going to teach you. I'm saying, what I'm implying is that there is something called the logos that is guiding our souls to truth. Our job is to share in that guidance, and we do that through the dialectic. Notice, it's not truth from authority, because you got a PhD or something, or you've got $800 billion or something. It's sharing in the truth and the flow and the stream of the logos. That's what I would do if you were genuine. And I guess if I had any integrity, I probably should make a similar statement about this channel. If you're genuine in this channel, I'll do my best to extend that same spirit and invitation to share in the dialectic. If you're not, then I'll be harsher. I suppose. I'm still following the principles that Socrates outlined of, this is the logos. You still have to use language like a human being. You can't just be a troll, let's say, and use language without any genuine integrity. But the idea is to be genuinely open and learn this new thing called the dialectic. That's what Socrates said at the beginning. So our question is, does someone need to be able to apprehend this whole realm of physical based beliefs and opinions to be able to function in this dialectical way, to friendly way, to benefit other people? Just like a doctor might have to know all of the kinds of things, that parts of the body and things that can go with the body, and see it as a whole. If that's the case, if that's where Socrates is at, we can make a hypothesis, an if statement. We don't know that's true, but we'll say maybe Socrates represents this. And if justice and courage and the other qualities mentioned are aspects of excellence and virtue, in order to know virtue, do we have to apprehend this as a whole? In which case, what kind of knowledge is that? Or is that beyond knowledge? Could that be why Socrates says he doesn't know and he's never met anyone who knows virtue itself? I don't know. These are questions we're playing with, and we're having lots of fun doing it. But for us to ask those questions and get answers, we have to be okay with being wrong, to recognizing, oh hell, all human beings grow up here, and 99% of people stay there forever, and then die and come back as a toad, or don't come back because they haven't done enough work to master the dialectic, says Socrates. We have to recognize this is where we start. Therefore, mistakes are not bad, but necessary at every level, so long as they're objects for ousia, or reflection. You should write that on the board too, because this is key. Ousia, which is a Greek word which means self-reflection. We have to be okay with that. To realize it's the best thing to find out you were carrying something that's false, that was harming you, so that you can remove it. And then ask the questions, well, okay, now that this part of my soul used to have this guy sitting here, but I found out he's wrong, so he goes, what's supposed to be here? If this was my idea of virtue, what is the real idea of virtue? So now I can not only free myself from my problems, but engage in this dialectic to discover the truth and have fun and benefit. That's where we are in the text. Socrates has to make this clear for Meno, because Meno doesn't want to be wrong. Just like insert name here. So far we've seen that he pulls out Meno slave boy and says, hey, do you know math? No. Let me ask you a few questions. And he asked him a few questions, and he pulled out Pythagoras. Pythagoras' theorem. He asked Meno, by the way, before he was wrong about how to calculate areas, right? Yeah, he was. But he thought he was right, yeah. And he could have given speeches about it, right? Right. He could have gone to big mathematical seminars and said, this is how you calculate the area of a rectangle. And he would have harmed those people who believed him. Right. So having realized himself by the series of questions that I asked in a friendly way that he was wrong, is he made better? Meno said, absolutely he is. He's not making a fool of himself. He's not giving these big speeches that are nonsense, and he's not harming people who believe him. So it's very important to be okay with being wrong so that you can function in a better way. And now Socrates says he is able to learn the truth. And he was. He was able to learn the truth about Pythagoras' theorem. Hooray for him.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
So our question is, will this sink into Meno's head? Head's the wrong word. Head's physical. Soul. Mind. Also, there is another question has come up. After this first point, Socrates raises the question, where did he get it from? I didn't give it to him. I just asked questions. You didn't teach it to him. We already know your idea of virtue and how slaves have a different virtue than you, so that's probably why you're not teaching him anything. Nevertheless, where did he get it from? If he hasn't learnt it in this lifetime, he must be remembering it from somewhere. How else did he get it? So now we've unlocked a new discovery, the possibility of all learning. Again, not learning this bullcrap that keeps us chained to ignorance. No, we get those from our family and society, our upbringing. But the true principles that truly exist beyond this lifetime, but also cause and sustain the physical world, is that learning, remembering, including math. Because the Pythagoras' theorem will be true for aliens too. or some species are a billion years in the future. It's still true. So it has to exist outside of this. Whereas, Nazism won't be true. The principles that allow the levels of cognitive development that include a kind of ignorance where people are bound by false beliefs and cannot learn anything. They're stuck from the learning, so the only way of establishing knowingness is by murdering anyone else below them or threatening to. That way of thinking as a principle could be discovered as another alien species evolves to eventually develop the Logos and realize how baby brain and harmful that is. But the specifics of, whites are the superior race, says our friend Elon. Not really a friend if he's doing that. That's not something that's a true principle that is remembered. That's a belief based on images, colors and shapes, right? The stupidest people are not moved by understanding principles and causes. They are moved by colors and shapes. Woman is a different shape, so I can say it's good or bad. These sorts of people will always say anything other is bad because that's the game. They want a sense of superiority without having to learn or develop, which would require this, dialectic and logos. So they just say everyone else is bad, including women. I picture a woman. Different shape. Or different skin color. There we go, colors and shapes. So, is learning remembering? Are we remembering that? What does that mean? And how will it sink into our minds and Meno's minds how okay we have to be in being wrong at this level if our goal is this level? Knowledge, understanding, principles. Let's write that on the board too. It's not the physical senses, these are principles. So when we say, hey, that politician is saying one rule for you, one rule for me, that's bad. The reason why we say it's bad and hypocrisy and why it is bad is because it's not a principle. We want them to be acting according to principles, not their own stupid opinions, because their opinion will always turn out to be, for those sorts of people, I should get all the money. And everyone can go suck an egg, because money comes from people. Meaning I want my people to be poor so that I can be rich and my friends can be rich. That's a dumb opinion and it's not a principle. You can't apply that to everyone. That's why a society where everyone has about the same amount of money and it's not coveted or hoarded because we all have it, it can just flow as water. That's the metaphor. Everyone is not rich because there is no rich anymore. Everyone is happy, well off, able to meet their needs, is free to do this. That is something that is a principle because it can apply to everyone. This is a thought experiment I heard the other day. Imagine you were setting up the rules for who should be rich and poor before you were born and you don't know where you're going to be born. Would you set up a system where there is 0.1% who gets to participate in life because they have all the money, while the other 99%, maybe there's a bit of a gap between there, have to sacrifice life to sell it to those rich people because they have no money? Would you set up that system if you didn't know, considering you got a 99% chance of being here? You'd probably want to set up a more equal system. Another way of saying that is, hey, how about a universal principle? Now, the other thing about principles is, as we talked about a second ago, it's the cause of the physical world. Causes. So this is a handy thing you can do when you're listening to people or talking to someone. and you really like someone and you don't know why, like that person is amazing and different. And I think it's a really wonderful person. Could it be they are talking about principles and causes, not opinions or gossip, or defending their beliefs like a Nazi or racist? Moved by shapes and colors, like a baby brain, they are instead reflecting on this. I've been asking myself that question lately too. And it's interesting. It's interesting to me how rare it is. So, when you come across someone like that, they are a rare bird. And if you can somehow convince them to have coffee with you, then you are winning. And I mentioned coffee, so we have to have some coffee. And my new baby chicken loves coffee. He loves it. That's where we are. Let's jump in and keep reading. Here is the ancient scroll we've been talking about. Let's lead ourselves in. Okay, this is the end of the diagonal thing. Just to repeat. The question is, at the beginning, if you have a 2x2 square over here, well, let's bring it up on the board. There we go. 2x2 square gives you 4 units. 2 feet by 2 feet gives you 4 feet. How do you double it? Do you make it 4x4? Because that will give you 16. Uh-oh, that's more than double. That's 4 times as much. Well, what about 3x3? Will that double it? 3x3, that gives you 9. Uh-oh, how do you do it? Well, 1, 2, and then 1, 4? That does give you 8, doesn't it? What he realized was if you divide a line here, you've cut 1, 2, 3, 4 in half. So each of those 4 is just 2 because they're 4 halves equals 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you have your 8. So what you're doing is you're creating a something. What are we doing here? A squared, which is 4 squared here, plus b squared, which is 4 squared here, gives you c squared, which is this. Take the square root of that. I went over that pretty clumsily. Oh well, we did it last time. So if you want to know more about how Pythagoras comes out of this, go to yesterday's episode, the day before. Okay. The diagonal, right, the diagonal. Call this line a diagonal. Then double would arise from the diagonal. So if you want double Yeah, you have to create a diagonal to create the double of the area, to create 8. Was there any opinion that was not from himself? Did I tell him what to say? No. They were all of himself. He indeed did not know a while ago. But the opinions were within self. This is big. Within self. Where are we getting this stuff from? It has to be within ourselves. What does that mean about the nature of yourself if within you are these principles, are these eternal truths? What does it say about yourself? How could it exist within you? These are questions that we carry and we add to. Accordingly then, for one who does not know concerning that which they do not know, there still exists within them true opinions. They might not know it yet, but because knowing is something specific, eidos here, or what's this word? Let's look this word up. So this is what we were talking about earlier, that there is something called nous, which is a specific kind of knowledge, which refers to that which always is, so the truth of the whole of the realm of principles. So let's look up this word here real quick. Eden. Oh, okay, variation of eidos. So that he doesn't have knowledge, he's not beholding it directly with his being, or his mind, or nous, but he is able to express true opinions about it. Doxia. The self-opinions have been awakened in self just as in a dream. So we have a different kind of opinions. We talked about lovers of opinions, those people who call themselves philosophers nowadays at college. But Socrates calls them lovers of opinions, not actual philosophers. But here we have a different class of opinion called self-opinions. Let's put that away in our filing cabinet. Maybe that will come back in later. Self-opinions. If someone will continue questioning self, also remember, when we do dialectic, we're not targeting the image, we're not debating with his beliefs, we're not debating with his opinions or mask. Try and do that, you're fighting a losing game, because opinions and masks and self-identity have nothing to do with truth. What are you doing? Wasting your time. But if you are questioning the self, if that's where your focus is, what does that mean? Now, we are questioning self about the selves. If everything is within self, especially the things we are coming to remember, how can that be? Well, he's calling these principles and causes and eidos, aspects of pure being, he's calling them selves. We are questioning self about self. All this is, so here, selves. By the way, just a reminder, above the realm of being, the third circle, we call the one self. This is the one of Plato's first hypothesis. This is the good of the Republic. Maybe if we get into the Republic, we can discover a third term that refers to this. That's a puzzle. And it's the thyself. When they say know thyself, That's what they're talking about. The cause even of causes, or the cause even of principles. So our question is, if all learning is remembering, then somehow all of these things that we are actually learning, again, don't be precious about these. Even if you are a psychologist, even if you are a philosopher, just do better. Don't be precious about these. Your images of yourself, your opinions of this or that, your beliefs that you got from college or wherever. Don't be precious, because we want to recover knowledge of this, which is eternal, and therefore adds to other questions like, why are we here? Probably not to gain physical things if we're going to physically die. I'm going to try and sit back a little bit. There we go. Comfy. So how is it all within self? Well, if this is the self, and this is somehow within self, that we as physical beings who are engaging in self-reflection or ousia, following the dun-dun-dun, dialectic. Now, I think we've dropped the word art, following the, let's just say dialectic. Let's leave the word art as a question for a while. Dialectic. If our desire to do this, and not just desire, our doing of this, allows us to remember this, and that's true learning. And Socrates saying, therefore, it must be somehow within self. Does this model help? What? Sometimes my blackboard freezes. Still not caught up yet? I'm scribbling on my board and it's not showing up yet. Alright. Maybe if I... Oh, it's back. There we go. Does this model help us understand how it could be that way? Specifically, as if this is the self here, he is calling these selves. Now we already know that self can mean the particular here. It can mean the honorific, and it can mean this, the word altos in Greek. But if he's calling these things selves, what does that mean about its relationship to the self? Don't know, but it's a good question. So let's carry it with us on our adventure. Wow. Oh, and by the way, who are we looking to? What? So let's use that professional philosopher teacher as an example. Sorry, fellow, if you're still watching the channel, thank you for continuing to watch. And I hope you are not taking this as a roasting. It's just a handy example. It's not personal. If we would talk to that person in the way Socrates is out describing, would it be worth me saying, oh, you as a philosophy professor? Right. That's who I'm going to talk to. And I'm going to be really precious around your opinions and your beliefs about what philosophy is. Is that going to help anything? No. Instead, we are, says what we're reading, talking to this guy. Hey, do you have a self? Behind your masks and your images and your opinions, do you have a self? Do you think I'm caring for you to be nice to your mask? Or am I being nicer to you to encourage yourself to come out free of masks? Am I being nice to you by being precious around your opinions, be they Elon Musk's Nazi opinions or the modern philosophy's opinion about what philosophy is, but it isn't? Is that being nice? Or is it nicer to encourage you to become free of your problems that chain you to what Socrates called chain you to your problems and your ignorance, so that you can be free to actually remember what's in you already, and maybe even go beyond that to discover or know thyself? What is actually being nicer? Treating you like a baby where you stay ignorant and sick and continue to act harmfully to anyone who believes you, just like what Socrates just said. If anyone listened to Meno give a talk about math, they would be harmed. Or would I actually be doing more good and benefit and having more fun and doing more good? Repeating myself. By not talking to this, but instead looking for this and talking to this and encouraging this to participate in the logos. Let's put logos down here as well. But dialectic is the structure of the self logos. So that's the question. So you know how like you cringe whenever anyone says, speaking as a mother. Oh, cringe. This conversation is not going to go down well. Why? Because as a mother is an image that is using to justify their dumb opinions and dumb beliefs. And if you challenge them, it's not a reflection using the dialectic of the logos, because they will take it as a criticism. No, you can't tell me because I'm a mother. I'm right about everything. When you have kids, you can blah, 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 blah. That's stupid and cringe. Why? They're appealing to an image. What other tangents are fed to us in our society that distract us from this and distract us from solving our problems in our world caused by this, by instead getting us to focus on different images? Whatever images. Race, sex, gender, sexual identity. Bunch of images, bunch of dumb old images. Keeps you chained down here. Stupid. Socrates is saying, talking to the self, about the selves, with continued questioning. This is one hell of a sentence. It's so good. So let's just appreciate that. These self-opinions, given our reflection on what self means, autos, in that model, what does it say about the opinions? Maybe still here, but if it's self-opinions and self lives up here, dunno. They seem to be true opinions, even though they're opinions. They've been awakened in self just as in a dream. But if indeed, on the other hand, if someone will continue questioning the dialect, self, who we're looking to, about these selves, what we're focused on, not opinions or gossip or images, principles, causes, eidos, aspects of being, aspects of pure mind, or the self, and beyond it, the one self. It's so rich. It's this text, these words, the way Socrates speaks is so rich that it's so easy to just spend time reflecting on each of the words, which is fantastic. But yeah, funny. So if you continue questioning self about these selves often and in many ways, which is why this is the quote that we quote, if we find someone like that we mentioned, someone who is naturally inclined to, has a genuine interest in truth and understanding, has a genuine interest in learning, freeing from images, opinions, benefits, a genuine interest in benefiting others even, and likes to think about principles and causes, then you quote this to them and say, every day you should meet me for coffee. It's a rare sort of a person, a rare bird, but Socrates says, I will continue questioning self about these selves in many ways, often. So, see if that works, and they have coffee with you. You know that they'll be brought to completion. I don't know whether you want to include this part here, saying, look, let's have coffee so we can have this dialectic conversation about selves again, talking to the self, to awaken our correct self opinions. Also, so I can bring you to completion. Maybe don't use that language. Unless, of course, you get really lucky with that person. Silly, juvenile, let's keep going. I'm being scolded by my flamingo. Doesn't like it. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't make lame jokes like that. If you question selves often, in many ways, about the selves, they will be brought to completion because self will know. So here we have our idea of knowledge that we've been wondering about all this time. These selves, no less accurately. So there is a transition or a completion of opinions. In other words, one of the catchphrases that you hear from non-philosophers, philodoxias, people who love opinions, debate bros and all that, is you can never know. And it's just continuous. There is no end to the physical world. There is no completion of the physical world. There is. There is a completion. Now, we want to understand why there must necessarily be a completion for it to be a just, intelligible, and caring world. Why there has to be a completion of the physical world. Socrates in the Phaedo, which we read before the Meno, talks about having completed his work on this physical incarnation, and now he's going on a different sort of a journey. He's not stuck in the prison of reincarnation. So there are references to completion, but here he is saying the whole point of this dialectic and everything we've been learning about how to do it, and Socrates, giving us a masterclass because he's dealing with a difficult person who really wants to be certain. But we had a big section on being stung. The opposite to certainty about your images, certainty about your opinions, certainty about your beliefs, certainty about physical world only existing. That keeps you chained to your ignorance and suffering. Replace it with aporia, or being stung, wonder, curiosity, open-mindedness, excitement at not knowing, just like a game. If you knew what was going to happen in a game of, I don't know, imagine you're a kid playing hide and seek. Or what's a more fun game than hide and seek? I don't know, the game where you got to get back to home base and you can't be tagged. I don't know what that's called, but that was fun. And you knew where the person was going to be at all times. Wouldn't be fun anymore. But when you're like running around the corner and then all of a sudden they're there and you go, oh my God, there's a person there. That's going to tag me. That's exciting. That's fun. That idea of fun and wonder and at not knowing and puzzlement but being open to the logos and dialectic at all times, wondering about self, asking questions about selves, reflecting on ourself and our experiences, all following the dialectic and the logos, ideally with a wonderful friend over coffee. That's aporia. That's being stung. So Meno thinks it's a bad thing because he can't give his bullcrap speeches anymore. Socrates says, no, if I've stung you, it's only because I am stung myself. Artists might recognize this puzzle that comes up for artists. The, this idea of confidence, especially if you're being paid to do art, confidence, but also how does that play with the fact that to have insights, you have to be open and realize you don't know and be puzzled. The more puzzled, the better. Because that not knowingness can be uncomfortable. So questions like, how does an artist become comfortable with uncomfortability? Or become, gain a familiarity with the sense of unfamiliarityness. Somehow have a relationship with that sense of wonder that's necessary. And also, if that wonder is necessary for Meno to give up his certainty, replace it with wonder, aporia, being stung, so that he can even then begin the journey the slave boy took. Begin to realize you were wrong all along. Begin to ask questions or follow questions so that you can bring, just as out of a dream, bring to the surface what is within self already. So that you can, and what we just read, continue that dialogue until eventually it can be brought to completion. You can complete your work here. There is a completion. And self will know about selves. That completion allows a movement from this, where you can have self-opinions, kind of seems to be the best you can do here. But then you can be brought to completion, and then self, this guy, will know selves. So these selves can be experienced directly. So there's a completion. There is a purpose here. I'm not running around on a hamster wheel, which is neat to discover. Adds to the fun. It wouldn't be much of a game if there wasn't a goal. So to touch home base so you can't be out anymore, that's the goal in that kids game, which is kind of like hide and seek, but there's another element where you got to be tagged so you can hide, but then you have to move around, so it's even more exciting. Has to be a goal. Now, our question is, well, how do we make it more fun? How do we have more fun? Socrates says, blackmail, using this text, using this sentence, blackmail your rare special friend into having coffee with you a lot and having this conversation a lot. That's definitely more fun, more of it, but also the goal. And that was the question that we had earlier today about sport. What if the goal wasn't just getting more baskets or getting more touchdowns, but it was some sort of physical expression or collective game where you're not just exploring whose, management system creates better footballers, but what ideas have more validity? A mastery of the dialectic. Maybe there's a connection between physical excellence and excellence in ideas, so that the winning team didn't win because he was genetically gifted, but because of, some higher level of excellence and participation in the dialectic, ousia, self, the selves in being, and maybe wondering about the thyself, oneself. I don't know what it's going to look like, but that would make it more interesting and fun. I found that myself. I used to love playing soccer, and there was a point in primary school where I realized, okay, at every level. Like I learned, as a little kid, you're just running in like a little bunch after a ball. But I realized early on, me and another kid, Alex was his name, we could pass it to each other. And so long as we stood, I don't know, a few meters apart, we could pass it, so that group could never get the ball because they hadn't learned to pass yet. And then it was me and Alex versus the rest. That was how soccer was playing when I was at primary school. But then, you know, they grew up, they learned how to pass and all that, the more motor coordination, and then we would have to get better and better and better. And they got a point where there's a bottleneck. There wasn't another thing to learn beyond the physical mastery. What about my spirit? What about my soul? What about my state of mind? What about conversation? These are things we have. Why are we not using them? Starts to get boring. It's kind of, I don't know, year 4. How old are you in year 4? Like 10 years old. Soccer is at a 10-year-old level of development. We need to add the logos to make it more interesting and make it more mature and rational and fun. So that's the whole point, fun. So the more meaningful and the more profound the goal, the more fun it can be. But not only that, there is a universality. Like we said, the cave analogy, they had the prisoners in the bottom of the cave looking at the shadows on the wall. There's a fire casting shadows. The exit of the cave is huge. Anyone can play because everyone's goal is to know the self. Everyone's got a purpose here. If they have evolved to the ability to participate in language, logos, participate in self-reflection, ousia, then this is their job. Meaning the goal of the game is destiny, the destiny of man. Not rubbish uses of the word destiny, because that word can be used in terrible ways and by terrible people, but actual destiny, let's take that word back, as opposed to fate. Fate is changed to this. Destiny is, they call it man's destiny, human destiny, but the word man is carrying a lot of weight there because it's the destiny of all living beings. So we say the destiny of man. The point is, it's universal. So because it's universal, we could also look at it in terms of causes. It's called the first and final cause. Using causes. So, fun game, but for it to be fun, there has to be this goal. The more universal, the more profound, the more fun, the better. That's what we're seeing here. The more personally significant the goal, even more fun. I'm not just playing a game so someone else can get rich. I actually benefit. I get something out of this. It's not because mum and dad told me I had to play hockey because it's good for whatever. No, this is the self. It benefits you significantly, personally, specifically, the most. So it has all the elements of the most fun, which is neat. Neat to discover. The self-opinions have just been awakened in self, just as in a dream. But if someone will continue questioning self about these selves often and in many ways, you know that when they are brought to completion, self will know. About what? The selves. No less accurately. Meno thinks it's likely, I could. Is it not so then that self will know nothing by teaching, but by questioning, which allows us to restore the self-knowledge that arises from self? Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow. Wow. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wow. Wow. So, taking us, we're at page 25. How many pages are there? There are 48, so we're about halfway through. and we've just hit the bombshell. Just got a wisdom bomb dropped on our asses. That teaching is garbage. Quit it with the teaching, you teachers. Cut it out. Why? Because it's through not teaching, but through questioning that we can restore the truth. Now, this makes sense. If you think about education as a brainwashing tool to get people to act against their own interests by participating in capitalism, go to school when I say, go to the bathroom when I say, eat when I say, do these tests, regurgitate back the beliefs that I'm feeding you, even though it's false. A lot of it. Economics, garbage. Economics is a propaganda, it's not a real thing. I did economics at university for about a semester until I realized, hang on a second, they're just lying. This whole supply equals demand and there's an invisible hand that makes capitalism make everyone rich. Nothing about that is true. Propaganda. I'm not saying everything you learn at college is propaganda, but a lot of it is. And if we were instead not being conditioned to participate in the capitalist machine, but we actually cared about individuals, cared about understanding, cared about our species, because we're thinking long-term, not baby brain, and not allowing the baby brain selfish people to control our education anymore, just because they happen to be born into other baby brain families with all the money, doesn't make what they say good or helpful or artful or true. If we realize that, because we are being rational and mature, this makes a lot of sense. It's not the piggy bank model where you're putting information into the brain. Asking questions to recover through remembering self-knowledge. Game changing. By the way, what will happen to all of the religious or cult or oppressive organizations or people when we realize we have knowledge? We don't have to believe some jerk in the Golden Plain saying he speaks for Jesus or something, or Allah or Vishnu or whoever. If knowledge is knowledge of self, that lie that they say is you can't know the mind of God. God is far beyond your silly human mind. Your mind is fundamentally different from mind of itself. Is it? It's got the same name. No, that's heresy. Bend over, I'll spank you. Oh, can't do that because we're not since the 90s. Sometimes you can. Many places you can. Disagree. Think that you can have knowledge. Oh. What will it do if this is true? So, do both. Take both. If education of truth, excellence, virtue isn't taught all the way back to the first sentence, we're halfway through, tying it back into the first sentence, because Meno asked in the first sentence, let's have a look at it. Hello, Mr. Socrates, he said. Can you tell me, Socrates, whether virtue is teachable? Very first line. Now we're halfway through, and he drops a bomb on our asses saying, you can't teach it. What are you talking about? You can draw it out of someone through the dialectic. So maybe that person that you're trying to have coffee with, include this bit. Right, pretty cool. And should hopefully raise more questions for us, because that's the game. Right, Flamingo? Flamingo says, yes, that's the game. Questions. Because you know what questions can do? Questions can stimulate curiosity, aporia, hooray, being stung. And our question is, what's that got to do with virtue? It's necessary. It's a necessary part, but is it a part? Is it the whole? What would it mean if it was both? Again, make a dialectic. If virtue is this, Or if this is a part of virtue, what if it is, what if it isn't? Practicing the dialectic. But is not that which recovers self-knowledge within self-recollection. Bingo, bango, bongo. What can I use for a drop? I've forgotten my
Have you
drops.
read Brand?
No. Oh, that's alright. No.
You're a wizard.
Wow. Alright. Stop playing with my drops. No. So we've got a name on it. So we've put a name on it. We've gone through a process of the dialectic with a friend, the slave boy here. Slab boy. And at the end, we've engaged in a dialectic. So maybe that was the demonstration. So we've he asked some questions of Meno. Notice what he is pointing out here. He is demonstrating. He's asking questions. Thumbs up of Meno. So he's defining and demonstrating this dialectic. And now we put a nice bow on the top by giving it a name, recollection. So now we know what recollection is. What is it? Awakening the true self-opinions that are not about the physical world or images, but about selves in being, by asking questions not to the person's mask or image or ego, but to the self. In many ways, and often, this questioning, so that they can be brought to completion and they can themselves know the selves themselves. A kind of restoring of self-knowledge that arises from self, and this recovering of self-knowledge within self, from self, within self. And then, if it is the selves, then we are returning. So we have it from the self, we have it within self, and if you're looking for a triad, it's about selves, so we're returning. So the from, in, and returning to self, we're calling that recollection. Wow.
Wow.
Is that a definition? Yes. Is it a definition of virtue? Maybe, don't know. Wondering. Take notice then. Oh, Meno agrees. Take notice then, in regards to the knowledge that which that self now has, it was either acquired at some time or he already possessed it. So now we're reasoning about what happened. We had the experience, now we do the UCA. We talk about that a lot. It's not the experience that changes us, it's our reflection on that experience to develop understanding and principles from them. Okay, so now we're doing the UCA, the reflection on it. By the way, that thing that you just saw, he either acquired it or had it forever. Always possessed it. Yes. If self always possessed it, self was always knowing. Here's our if. But if, on the other hand, self acquired it at some time, then it indeed could not have been acquired now in this life, or has someone taught this boy geometry? For this boy will do the same with all geometrical subjects, and also with all the other subjects of learning. Then, is there anyone who taught him all this? For it is in some way just as if you know, especially seeing as he was born and nurtured in thy home. Now that's interesting. The knowledge that we are pointing to here is different from the knowledge that Meno has acquired from the physical world. Why? He's saying, hey, it's as if you know about this boy because you have seen him since he was born. As if. Different from the knowledge that we've been talking about as nous, which is not of the physical world, of course. Then, but I do know, Meno doesn't know the difference yet between the two ideas of knowledge. Indeed, no one has ever taught him. Then does he possess these opinions or does he not? It appears he must. Notice appearance. If, for Meno is saying appearance, not Socrates. If he did not acquire them in this present life, is the following not already clear? That he possessed them and learnt them at some other time. Possessed them and learnt them at some other time. Also notice, question mark. He's doing it. He's doing the thing that we want to do. Also, I need a new chair. Is it not so then that this must have been the time that this boy was not a human being? What? The time? You mean there's something other than being a human being? What?
No one seems to be learning.
What?
This guy had.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, come on, man.
Come on, man. Yes. All right. I guess there is a time when we weren't human. Meno says yes. If there existed within self true opinions, both at the time while being and while not being a human being. Okay, let's. Which opinions awaken to become knowledge by questioning. Ooh. The transition through the cognitive functions. Take notice then, will the soul of self, cognitive functions, opinions, beliefs, understanding, nous, beyond that, wisdom, phronesis, maybe something else. Take notice then, will the soul of self be disposed to learning or remembering for all time? For it is clear that for all time she either is or she is not a human being. Now he's talking about the soul. So we've gone from the particulars to the universal, which is the game. Not just for Meno, but all souls. So, if we are disposed to learning for all time, so there's no time where we can't learn. So if you ever think I'm not good enough for learning, Socrates is saying, no, it's not true. Always you are. Because for all time you are either not a human being, where you somehow learn these things, or you are a human being, in which case you can engage in the dialectic to awaken knowledge through being asked or asking yourself questions about themselves. So it appears, again, appearance. Is it not, for Meno, is it not so then that if the truth of real beings has always existed in our soul? Now look at that sentence. Look at it, zoom in on it. Look at all the colors we got. Light purple, we got dark purple, light purple, we got blue, and we got green. That's a lot of colors. It's very pretty. My goodness, look at the sentence itself. And we've earned this. We're halfway through and we're 40 episodes in. Look at this. Look at this. Oops, what happened? Oh. Look at this. Is it not so then, says the great Socrates, the truth of real beings always existed in our soul? What? What a sentence. First of all, the truth. There is a truth. Numbnuts who teach such philosophy as opinions. Numbnuts who justify genocide or political exploitation or capitalism or fascism because there's no truth and there's all just opinions, and who's to say? No one knows. Why not just pick a team? There is a truth. First thing, real beings. Oh, they always exist. They're real. They're not becoming. You can't learn by studying the physical world. Unless, of course, you're going from the many to the one. Many instances of beauty to beauty itself. Many instances of virtue to virtue itself. Many instances of selves and being also. Anyway, the truth of the real beings always exists, so it exists. It's not a theory, and it's in our soul. Woo! How many souls do we have to genocide if the truth of real beings always exists in their soul? To teach them a lesson, or to destroy a kind of false belief that leads to, I don't know, terrorism or communism or Marxism. Oh dear. How many genocides do we have to do if the truth of real beings always exists in our soul? I'm going to posit a number. 0 genocides. Wouldn't that be neat? And my chicken says yes. Then the soul would have to be immortal. Another bombshell. Are you living for the physical world? Are you YOLOing it up? Like a lot of the finance bros, a lot of the worst people acting in the worst ways say, you only live once, bro. So let's get all that money. Get that bag. Who cares if the planet dies? I'm not going to be around. Everyone else is doing it. The soul would have to be immortal. Let's highlight this. The soul will have to be immortal, so that you may take heart by attempting to search and to recollect for that which you do not happen to know at the present time. Take heart by attempting to search and to recollect that which you don't happen to know at the present time, or rather this which you do not remember. Now, this is the answer to Meno's question. Well, if you don't know something, why seek it? I mean, like, why seek anything? That was his question. If you already know it, you won't need to seek it because you already know it. But if you don't know it, how will you know what to look for? So why seek anything? Keep your dumb, ignorant opinions, says most people. Because you don't know it or remember it right now, but you can take heart. You can remember it. Thumbs up. Where'd that thumb come from? Take heart because you can remember it. You just don't know it at the present time because you haven't remembered it yet. So, continue to search. Continue. This can also be your pitch for your friend. Hey, we have to have more coffee meetings where we practice the dialectic, because even though we don't have knowledge of the beings right now, our soul is immortal, and we need to be doing our best to search, because we're just recollecting or remembering what we don't remember now, but we can. And if there's anything doing in life, it thumbs up, I guess. If there's anything, thumbs up for that. Thank you, computer. And if our soul is immortal, then whatever we're doing here should be aiming towards that. Not just getting money for the 60 years you're here, but something you can take with you for how long? All time. All time. Something we can take with us for all time. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be a nice coffee? To walk away from your coffee, lunch date with somebody, and having gained something you can carry for all time and benefit from. Meno says, you appear to speak well, Socrates, although I do not know. Here's the meme. What's the meme? Oh, hell. I like your funny words, music man. Magic man. All right, here's the meme. Here's the meme. This is what Meno is saying to Socrates. It works.
Office. Hold my calls. Sun nuggets, solar babies, La Uva Loca, California's finest, all for you to smoke on.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
That was it. That's all. It's a cartoon where the kids at the high school are smoking raisins. I like your funny words, Magic Man. Same thing here. You appear to speak well, O Socrates, although I do not know how. I don't know what you're saying or how you're saying it, but it seems to make sense. This is interesting. This is something you might recognize yourself the more you get into this game. Like, oh, that thing that I heard, or that thing from Socrates, or that thing from the podcast, it's unfamiliar and I don't really follow it, and I feel like it's true in some way. Let's highlight that. You appear to be speaking well. I like your funny words, Magic Man. For so do I myself, Meno. What? Either Socrates doesn't know how he's able to follow the share in the logos through the dialectic, and with such excellence, so he's definitely demonstrating virtue. In some way, he's doing it well. He's affecting us in 2,000 years in the future, 2,500 years in the future. He's affecting he's helping the slave boy, he's helping Meno. So he's doing ace. For so do I to myself. Oh, okay, so he either appears to be speaking well or he doesn't know. I'm not sure which one he's clicking at there. And on the one hand, I would indeed not rely upon the logos in every other way, whereas on the other hand, I would contend in every way about the following. No, that's crazy language. As far as I am able in both word and... Okay, I'm not happy with this. Let's look this up in another translation so we can get better English phrasing here. 86b. All right, let's pull this up here. 86b. Here we go. Let's take it to space. Right. What you say commends itself to me, Socrates. I know not how. Socrates says, and so it does to me. Oh, okay, so it's not just that it's speaking well, it's commending itself to him. Whatever that means. Most of the points I have made in support of my argument are not such as I can confidently assert, but that the belief is the duty of inquiring after what we do not know will make us better and braver and less helpless than the notion that there is not even a possibility of discovering what we do not know, nor do we have any duty of inquiring after it. This is a point which I am determined to do battle for so far as I am able, both in word and deed. This helps us make sense of this a little bit more. So I do not rely on the logos in every other way. So he's talking about so each of the individual arguments, he's not saying he's confident on, he's not certain on. He's still in aporia about. Maybe it's because they are not objects of knowledge. Who knows? But the conclusion that in both word and deed, let's highlight this is big news. This is a conclusion that so we get that saying, that misquote from Socrates that he doesn't know anything. I am wisest because I know nothing. Garbage. That's not what he said. He says, I'm wisest because I know what knowledge is and I'm not going to be mistaken. These doofuses think they know things and they don't even know what knowledge is. They're talking about knowing things that are not objects of knowledge. I'm not going to make that mistake. That simple fact makes me smarter than these doofuses. They're claiming to know things that are unknowable because they don't know what knowledge is. Nous is. But here we see an example of something that he is. He doesn't say he knows, but he's willing to go to battle for what? In both word and deed, we will be made better and more virile. Now, more virile is a funny word. It means courage. It's the adjective that is to do with the courage. Courage, one of the virtues, we're interested in virtue, where you keep going. You keep, even though you don't know, so you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, or you're okay with being puzzled. Even though it might feel like the opposite is true, you still go along with and do in word and deed the right thing, which is of course the logos. Logos shows it to be rational and true. You don't feel it yet until you keep going, you keep asking and reflecting, dialecticing in all possible ways, whereas often and in many ways, until you are brought to completion. And in that case, those things that you have been following through courage would be obvious, giving rise to a different kind of a virtue. That's the Republic. But that's what the word more virile will become: better and more courageous. Have the adjective of courage, virility, or manliness, or, of course, it's all people, including women. So that's why I make a point saying, hey, virile is a funny word. When they say virile or more manly, it's kind of like courage. It is courage. I was going to say it's kind of like being a Sigma, but I'm not even going to entertain that brain rot anymore. Sigma, goodness. Better, more courageous, and less idle. Now, the other translation had better, yes, braver. See, that's the word, braver, more courage, and less helpless. So if we wanted to, we could look into that word to see which actually it is. Does it mean idle? Like, is it bad that we are wasting our time? That we could be spending doing this? Or is it bad because if we don't develop this technique of dialectic and develop understanding and knowledge of the truth, we can't actually help anyone? Say, I want to be good for someone. Well, do you know the good? No, it's at the completion of the dialectic, you will know the good. Well, do you understand the good? Again, that's the dialectic. Do you know how to be helpful then? Not really. At least not with there are some, again, those rare people who haven't yet been introduced, maybe, to the Logos, to Socrates, to this new translation. Again, it's new. But their natural inclination is to help in this way, where they appeal to causes, principles, self-reflection, friendly, helpful, encouraging dialectic, dialogue, fun, charming. There are these sorts of people. And I wonder if they were philosophers in their past life. But even those people could benefit from understanding what it is they're inclined towards, and mastering it. And then being a dialectician like Socrates and helping the rest of us. So, while each of the individual arguments I'm not certain of, I am in both word and deed, we will be made better, more brave, less helpless and idle, if we think that we must search for that which one does not yet know, rather than thinking it is not possible to discover that which we do not know. Nor must we search. Now, this is a big one. This is huge. One of the most popular zeitgeist or cultural beliefs of our time is that there is no knowledge. Again, it serves the jerks who are, a lot of them, screw it. Jerks, really, who are insisting on their opinions because of force, or wealth, or connections. They will say you can't know. Therefore, it's a waste of time to begin to study the dialectic, to begin to read the Logos and do midwifery, because you can't know. You can't know. It's all a matter of opinions, right? No one's died and come back from the dead to tell us what happens, right? Wrong. Socrates did, and he talked about other people who has. And that's what we're supposed to do. And many people have. Whether or not they've understood it, it makes a difference though. You can't know. You can't experience the mind of God. That's what mind is. That's not even the last step, my friend. So, here we are saying you'll be made better, more brave, more helpful, less idle, if you always search for that which you don't know, and you get rid of that stupid belief that you can't know. It's impossible to discover that which you can't know. And the reason is recollection. We just had an example of it. So, that's why we are so happy to keep moving forward with this channel. Because we're always seeking to master the dialectic through this reading, and with our flamingo and chicken friends, they love each other, to uncover or recall or recollect, was the word, what we have forgotten, but know within self. And in this again you appear to speak well, Socrates. Okay, we've seen a lot today, a lot to wonder about, a lot of bombshells. What learning is, remembering, something that Socrates will fight, determined to do battle. See, look, in this other text it points out this. Inquiring after what we know. Now, the word belief isn't in the Greek, so we can wonder if he knows this. The duty of inquiring after what we do not know will make us better and braver and less helpless than the notion that there is not even a possibility of discovering. All that crap we get from professors. You can't know the truth, it's just a theory. From religious people, you can't know the mind of God, you're just a sinner. From politicians, there are no principles that are knowable, it's just opinions that we are loyal to from our family and that play out disastrously on the world stage. Bollocks, bollocks, bollocks to all of those people who are ignorant like Meno. Why? Because Socrates is saying that inquiring after what we do not know will make us better, braver, less helpless than the notion that we do not know, number one, because we do, it's forgotten, nor do we have any duty of inquiring after it. It's our job here. It's the most fun game, and it's really the noblest game. Some say the only real game in town. Because you're either doing this or you are being a slave to a false image of knowledge that might actually be making the claim you can't know anything else. You can know this, whatever your pathologos is. So it's the only game. So don't be a slave to what's false. Instead, you have a duty to inquiring after what you don't know. This is a point for which I am determined to do battle as far as I am able in word and deed. So it's worth fighting for this. The rejection of the ignorant statement, you can't know what you don't know already. So, just punish someone for being innately bad, innately criminal. There's no learning, there's no discovery of knowing, and you should spend your life trying to justify the Jewish beliefs you got when you were a kid, or the Catholic beliefs you got as a kid. Spend your whole life trying to justify that. Or the capitalist beliefs you got as a kid. Right? Because that's the only thing you can really know. You can't actually, you don't actually have a duty to inquire after the true nature of knowledge. Socrates says, that false belief I am willing to fight for, both in word and deed. So we talked about sport being a kind of physical battle. Imagine this. Imagine one team saying, if we win the Super Bowl, we have to make it a law that we each have a duty of inquiring after that which we do not know, while at the same time uncovering our false beliefs that say we can't, or that we don't. And if they win the Super Bowl, this is made law and we all win. Hooray. Now Socrates is of course talking about more than just sport. In word and deed, he is willing to go into battle for this. Great. This conclusion of the dialectic with Meno, demonstrated with the slave boy. Is that neat? Hopefully that has given you something to wonder about, something to ask your friend questions about, and something to practice this art of asking questions itself with your friend or yourself. Engage in dialectic with yourself. Ask a question, give an answer as honestly as you can, judge the answer. Pulling from these texts that we're reading, both Socrates and the midwifery book. And if you're lucky enough to come across somebody with a good mind and a good heart, where you can do this with them, then send them my email and never have coffee with them, so I can. No, just kidding. Embrace them and encourage them and let us know how you go. Did anything different or new come to birth from that relationship through the dialectic that you didn't expect? And are you wondering about it? Let's wonder about that together. Tomorrow, we will be jumping into the midwifery book to do the opposite of this, do the complementary of this. How do we discover the false beliefs like you can't know, or it's not your duty to know, or any of those things that Meno has? How do we discover our personal equivalent, and how do we understand it sufficiently so that we can become free of it, so that we can follow Socrates, follow the dialectic, follow our friend with coffee, without ever having to arc up and try and block it, or get pissed, or start attacking our friend, like Meno does, which is what happens. The pathologos blocks the logos. So, tomorrow, we'll be doing midwifery, which is understanding how to get rid of our blocks, so we can be more like Socrates, and uncover the self-knowledge in self, from self, allowing us to return to self, but carrying with us this special art. Does that make a difference? Thanks once again, and I hope to see you tomorrow or next time. Bye. Bye from my new animals that are hanging out now. Bye. They say bye.